State Council have been very quiet. People keep on saying, when are you bringing him to discuss the constitution? But that's not the topic for the day. People miss you. They miss your voice on these cardinal issues.
Thank you.
Just what is your perspective regarding this war matter? You must have studied it. Just give us the perspective from the point of the law.
Yeah, this is a very sad development, which ordinarily should not happen. It's embarrassing, but we are where we are. But it's also a lesson. It is a sign of our inability to respond to the challenges that we face as a country. And it is also a reflection of our misplaced priorities. And what has contributed to this is clearly the absence of the law to govern such events.
Yeah.
So it is a known fact that once one has served as president, at some point they will die. And what happens? How do we manage that process? And unfortunately, 60 years on, there is actually no legal framework to govern such events. And whatever happens is basically being done on a case-by-case basis. So I think it is a failure on the part of those given the responsibility to manage the affairs of this country, to try and put in place the necessary legal arrangements to address such situations.
Council, you've handled these matters, some directly, some indirectly. I remember the family of Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda engaged you because Dr. Kaunda, his memoirs, public utterance says, always wish that you lie at Shambalakale and at least lie next to Betty. I think whoever would have died first, their remains should be put alongside the other. And when Betty Kaunda died, instructions were that she should be buried in Shambalakale. I was privileged to have been permanent secretary at the time for Northern Province. It was combined with Muchinga, and Chinsali was under me. I rushed to prepare the place where Mama Betty would lie, and for 2 days we worked, but at the last minute we were told that the remains would be put in Lusaka. When Dr. Kaunda died, Kaweche engaged you and said, as far as he knows, the father wanted to lie next to Betty, and there's no room at the Embassy Park for 2 burials. There's only one for presidents. I think that's one of the regulations. Just give us a background, and how did you take this matter? How did you go to court? What were the outcomes?
Yeah, but again, it's exactly that. You see, even combining the issues that we have at hand, one of the things that we need to understand is the fact that, you see, government is a creation of the law. Now, what it means is that the powers of what government can and cannot do is stipulated in the law. Okay?
Yes.
Now, when government decides to move, they should be able to point out to a specific provision of the law empowering them to do what they want to do. Okay? Now, in the absence of that, and this is what happened in the case of Dr. Kaunda, the argument that the family had was basically that, well, those were his wishes that you have just talked about. But again, well, the government of the day, the administration of the day felt that no, he needed to be buried at Embassy Park. So basically overruling the wishes of the family and that of Dr. Kaunda himself. But the true position of what should happen, the true position of the law is, in the absence of the law, we are governed by the wishes of the family. Okay? Because there is no law to back up, to support government action. Now, for example, the only law that we have in place right now is the law to do with the payment of benefits to former presidents. That's the only law that is there, directly dealing with the issues of former presidents. And under that law, the only thing that a former president is entitled to, as of right, the funeral expenses. But that is also presupposes that that particular president is not in active politics. Okay? Because the law is that if one is in active politics, effectively those benefits are suspended. He cannot access those, whether dead or alive, he cannot draw those benefits. Now, these are the challenges that we have. In a situation that we have at hand, the most logical, from my perspective, it is a very, very simple matter. Government has no legal backing for whatever they're trying to do. And in this case, what should have happened is that the family should have taken the lead role, and government's role is simply to support the wishes of the family. And in this case, what government should have done is to approach the family to say, okay, fine, what are your plans? What is it that you'd like government to do? Okay? Then, if the family wanted it, then they would explain to the government, and government would now be able to, by the way, I mean the administration anyway.
Yes.
The administration would now be able to say, okay, fine, we will do that. And the family can say, you know what? No, thank you very much. We have everything under control and everything else. Then the administration will pull back and say, okay, thank you very much, but if you need our help, we are there. It's a very simple matter. But the problem is, I mean, it's so shocking and amazing that this thing has taken a life of its own, you know, which is very, very sad. Then, then there's now room for speculation as to what exactly is the motivation behind all these things, you know? So in other countries, for example, even if, let's say, you want to talk about these things, you see, take, for example, Tanzania. There is a clear piece of legislation, okay?
Yeah.
Which sets out what should happen when a former, first of all, there are categories of people that are entitled to state funeral. It's not just every Jim and Jack. Okay? Now, under that act, they call it the National Leaders Funerals Act. Okay?
National Leaders Funerals Act. Okay.
Yes. Okay? It is there in Tanzania. Now, there is an elaborate process as to who are the leaders that are entitled, what happens when a national leader dies, who is to make the announcement, okay? And then what happens if the leader dies outside the country? What is the procedure? What is the procedure, for example, if, let's say, a president or former president dies? Everything is laid out. And in addition to that, there is what they call funeral committees, okay? And those funeral committees, Ambassador, they even have a budget.
Wow.
Now, you have spent so much money during this particular period. Who's going to account for that money, by the way? And these are taxpayers' money. So now we have there is an elaborate procedure. For example, even in Tanzania, there is what they call a national cemetery. Now, in Zambia, you don't even have a national cemetery. Okay? So you bury them at the embassy park. There is no law gazetting national providing for the existence of the embassy park. There should have been an act of parliament to that effect to designate that place as a burial place for leaders. Okay? Now, there is nothing like that. So all what we have is a state of lawlessness. Okay? Now, in addition to that, for example, in Tanzania, there is a procedure. If a president leaves a will where he has directed that he has to be buried somewhere else, okay? The government will respect that. But what they will do at the National Cemetery, they still put a tombstone or whatever, a plaque to commemorate, to designate it, to recognize that particular leader. And then that leader will be buried wherever he wants to be buried. Even when it comes to the actual service, how it will be conducted, the law clearly states that the funeral rites will be conducted according to the faith of the deceased person. If he was Catholic, then that Catholic procedure be followed, whatever the denomination of the deceased president was. If he was an unbeliever, then that will be respected. Now here, we are wallowing in darkness. Why? Because there's no law. And government has the administration has no basis on which to do whatever they want to do. Or at the end of the day, the owners of the body, there is this concept that people talk about state property, state property. Where did they get that idea? There is no such a concept at law anyway, okay? In the absence of the law, at the end of the day, the people that have a final say in these matters is the family. These are the people that have direct loss. Yes, as a country, we have lost a former head of state, granted. But these are known as the bereaved family. Our job as citizens is to be able to make the burden easier for this family, not to complicate things not to complicate things for them. And what should have been done is to respect their wishes. Now, they have to dictate what government's role will be. And it's not for the government to dictate what its role should be. No, there isn't. There's absolutely no legal basis for that.
Facebookers, you made some of us look like we don't know anything, we're not educated. Hey, you need to go and do civic education. A state funeral, it's a government property, state funeral. What? I told you people, the family has the upper hand. You were arguing, this is a qualified lawyer. I said it from the beginning, let's beg the family. Let's be nice to the family. You were talking all sorts of things, trying to make us look like we don't understand anything. A lawyer has spoken. You have heard. There is no law that governs that the government should take over the rights of the body of the deceased person just because they were former president. There is no law anywhere. So the UPND administration is not entitled. They should respect the wishes of the family. You hear even some people saying, it's treason. We are going to arrest them from the airport. Where? The only responsibility of the government, according to John Sangwa, this is not a small man, this is a very respectable figure, is saying, is just to ease the burden of the family by funding the state funeral. So even if they want to bury him, Kumunzi, wherever, they can bury and put a statue at the embassy park representing that the president passed on. There is no law anywhere. If you listened to Winter Kabimba's interview, he stated the same thing, that the problem with us Zambians, we have not looked at the future. When we say, okay, now this situation has happened, what about the former president in the future? You say, so you want this president to die. We haven't got that. But Tanzania has a constitution which even has everything, funeral director, who they will use, the funding, everything. What will happen? We don't have nothing except the president will be given a state funeral and the former president. And given the fact that Lungu was not even entitled to state benefits, it's up to the family whether they want to ask for help from the government or not. So, those who are saying, we don't care, you are hurt that the family knows the law. You are hurt that the family did not bend to the wishes of this administration. Because the man has said that the administration, he did not say government. You are there parading, disrespecting the family all over social media. And you expect the family to bend to your wishes? It doesn't work like that. I stated this from the beginning. And someone will be saying, they are being advised wrongly. They are being... I said from the beginning, sent to bombe win on a family. Using force, power. If we want, we can use force. Where, madam? Where does it stay in the constitution that you can use force to collect the body of the deceased? The only thing here is even the man himself, the wishes of that he wanted is that certain things should not be done like this, like this, like that. But state funeral, he did not deny. So let's work with the family. Not kulaba turumusha. Kulaba titikisha. Be humble. You are changing all these things, putting that, no, doing that. No. Tefo babomba. Tefo babomba. Work with the family, their wishes. Ngabalanda tibalefo amazambians bamone ichitumbira chireisa. Allow them, those are their wishes. I mean, he was a people's person. Guys, a lawyer has spoken.